What's up, my ninjas? I'm back with another toy review. This time it's the SH Figuarts Alternative Zero, aka Master Ubulon in Kamen Rider Dragon Knight. If for those familiar with Dragon Knight versus Ryuki, I couldn't stand Ryuki. It actually was too goofy and too, just the characters just were too soft. You know, everybody was effeminate to the umpteenth degree. And, you know, I like variety, you know, so it wasn't for me. But Dragon Knight, on the other hand, had, like, all these super overly masculine characters. So it had that kind of against it, too. There wasn't enough variety. But the story overall was better told in Dragon Knight. But anyway, this figure is a stellar figure. Well done figure. All the details are there. The articulations, what you would come to expect from SH Figuarts, and there's a lot of new tooling as far as articulation goes. You know, they've tried different things to give you the same articulation, but you know, in this figure's form, with this figure's form, and it really works well. I don't really have any complaints as far as the design and, you know, how the articulation works. And this is one of those things that I always harp on. Engineering, you know, your articulation, your engineering on your figure, they have to all be able to do the things that we know your line might be popular for. You know, SH Figuarts are similar to Marvel Legends in the sense that Marvel Legends were the first, like, super articulated superhero figures. So, you know, you expect them all to be really well articulated, and there are some Marvel Legends that aren't as articulated as others, but you know, nothing was lost here. He even has the perfect set of extra hands, extra cards, and everything fits. There was zero slop, and I don't know, he's 1000% worth it. Now his deck, like many of the Ryuki riders or the knights in Dragon Knight, is in his belt. He pulls the cards out of the belt, and he has that reader on his right arm, and so his Advent deck, as it's called in both series, you know, that's how you use the powers. You activate the sword vent, how you activate, you know, any of his special moves, the speed vent, you know, and etc. All those cards are actually offered, you know, these tiny little cards, well detailed on both sides. They're not as thick as the ones that come with the Figma, you know, Dragon Knight figures, but it is they're well done cards that are kind of glossy, so they can stand up to, you know, repeat play or posing or whatever. And I was actually impressed. I figured that they were going to be, you know, real cheesy paper. I don't even know why I thought that, because, you know, SH Figuarts are usually pretty high quality stuff. So I was impressed with that. There is the separate set of hands, you know, one hand for holding all the cards like the deck itself, and another hand, which you see pictured here, for him to actually hold the cards, you know, and swipe them. And it's crazy that they even went that far, because he doesn't have any actions or anything. It's just that you would pose him like that. And I love the fact that whatever I see him do on the show, I can make my figure do it. Pictured here are all the accessories. I had to get a kind of a wide shot, and I'm going to get in close so you can see all the stuff up close and see exactly what he comes with. And as you can see, it's a decent amount of stuff, but it's nothing that you would not need. It's everything that you would use to kind of recreate many of the scenes from the you know, show. You see he's got his sword. He's got some splayed open hands, kind of like action pose splayed open hands. 2 sets of holding things hands, for one set for his sword and one set for the cards. Then he has 2 fists, and everything works perfectly. I mean, it's strange when doing reviews about SH Figuarts figures. You go into it expecting to have a lot of problems, and I've only ever come across one problem, and it sucks because it was with my favorite team, and that was the Akiba Rangers. I didn't like how on yellow, and I'm assuming on blue because I still haven't finished their team. They have the kind of slack joints syndrome where her neck pops off, her leg can pop off, because they use different plastic for the joints on them. You don't have any of those issues here. This guy, everything pops in place properly, everything does what it's supposed to do, and there's nothing, no problems, no nothing. He actually feels a little sturdier than the other knights. And it's strange because he's a little bit lighter. It's just the joints feel tighter and a little bit more secure, and they don't get loose. And that was, impressive. Thinking about the amount of ball socket joints that, make up the usual SH Figuarts figure, and the fact that you didn't have any loose joints. And he's almost entirely ball socket joints. Shoulders, hips, even his neck. And I think his torso as well. But as you can see, it allows for a lot of dynamic posing, just simple posing that looks natural. And there's nothing much more to say. His articulation is top notch. The detailing, all the little small painted parts, the amount of paint and how crisp and clean the paint is clearly what you're paying for on this figure, along with the engineering. I mean, no slop. It puts 95% of the figures released on the American market to shame. I mean, you can get up close on this guy. You can look under his arms. You can look, right where the belt fits in on his waist. You can look on his feet. You can look on his ankles. Everywhere that you look on this figure is detailing, and it's masterfully done. I mean, I was impressed. I actually sat there and I found myself trying to find, for the sake of the review, trying to find areas where they didn't do what they needed to do, and this costume is just immaculate. So, you got to give Bandai props. And, I keep telling you guys, Bandai makes the best action figures. Hands down. Better than everyone else. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The figures don't pop apart like the Mafex figures do. The figures don't have slop like the Marvel Legends do with the paint. Never stuck joints. I've never had any stuck joints. Every single detail that you saw in the film or the movie or the show or the whatever, it's represented faithfully in the figure. You always have double jointed elbows and double jointed knees. Sometimes you have the double jointed necks with the extra segment so that the neck is above the collar, so the collar doesn't restrict your head movement. But I don't know. It's just they do an amazing job on a consistent basis. So that $40 that you may spend for their figure, you understand where it's going. It's well spent. And, I would continue to spend that money on SH Figuarts. Here he is from the side, right side. You can see, like I said, his reader, his card reader, well detailed. Nothing wrong with it. No detail was left out, in this rendering of the figure. All the little yellow spots are still properly painted. I mean, like I said, every detail was paid close attention to, and it's awesome. The whole prototype thing, because you see on different parts of his body it says prototype or type 00, because in Ryuki he was a man-made rider. He was the only man-made rider. They changed that in Dragon Knight and made it where he was the first of the Ventaran riders. He's the Advent Master, so he created the Advent decks that gave all the other riders or knights their powers. So this dude and he's played by Mark Dacascos, my boy, which is another reason why, I had to have this guy. But yeah, he's essentially the first of those knights, the Ventaran knights, and he's supposed to be the most powerful. He's one of the best fighters in the show, and he's got the most detailed costume. And as I said before, no detail was lost, but they did keep, this is one of those things from, localization, I guess. Prototype, type 0, all that stuff is still on his suit, which kind of implies that it's man-made, even though the context is different in the American version. But, still, just look at the detail. despite the fact that it says one thing and, you know, it means something else in the Japanese version and it means something different in the US version, it's still, the detail is just fucking immaculate, you know? There's nothing else to really, you know, say. There's no marks against it in that department. His helmet is beyond fucking dope. I always dug the fact that it looked more bug-like than most of the others, because that's one of those motifs that seems to disappear at will on various riders, and it was actually here with him. The belt, the closer you get on that belt, the more detail pops out at you. It's freaking ridiculous. And those cards, you can see the slot on the left-hand side with the yellow tab. You can actually pull the card out of there. It's ridiculous. On his lower legs, or, you know, below the waist, you can see all the little screws or peg holes or whatever they are, the yellow spots, all the nice slate grays or blues. It just, everything looks good. The gunmetals. And I like the way his double joint is set in there with the knee pad popping off the joint itself, instead of being either up on the thigh or down on the lower leg. He still has the SH Figuarts hips, which I will get to in a little bit, but they're hidden in a different kind of way, you know what I mean? But I will get to that in a second. The card reader, even though it's large, it's still in proportion, and it's well painted in a nice, you know, silver, kind of brushed silver kind of, you know, color, and it's just well done. This thing, it's weird because the other guys, their readers were on their weapons. A lot of them had like a sword or I'm sorry, not a sword, but like a something, you know, an axe for, you know, axe, a spear for spear, you know, they put their cards in there and then click something, and then the weapon transforms, or it gives them the ability. He just reads his shit right there off his arm, and it was cool. It was real simple, and it was different, you know what I mean? And it's one of those things that kind of, I don't know, it separates him from the others. I took a lot of pictures of the side of this, you know, the reader, I'm sorry, because I thought that the reader was just a good idea and the design was really nice. From some angles, it's symmetrical. From other angles, it's its own little thing. You know, it's got its own little design elements going on. But, you know, just the design in general is just really nice. You could see it could double as a shield. I don't know, it's just well done. I was impressed, thoroughly impressed, and I'm not even gonna, you know, front. There's just so much good detail all over this thing, and, you know, it sounds like I'm repeating myself, but, you know, you get caught up in it because you're like, man, this is an action figure, I can play with this, and it was sculpted this well, you know what I'm saying? And we don't get that all the time here in the US. I mean, there's so many figures that nowadays designs have this kind of complexity, but the toy is always lacking. You know what I mean? Just look at the Winter Soldier Captain America. For all the details he had on him, it still wasn't as defined as the details you're seeing on this. The sculpting on this kicks the shit out of that figure, and it's crazy, you know. But his posability, he can do everything the other riders do. You're not missing anything. His legs can still, you know, kick. He can do splits, the whole nine. He still has, when I said before, he still has the SH Figuarts joints in his legs. They engineered the ball socket joint in his thigh a little bit differently. So instead of you having to pull it down to allow for him to kick, you know, further and fully extend his moves, he just can already do that. It kind of makes you wonder why they don't just build all SH Figuarts with these hips instead of the ones where you pull them out to allow for a little bit more of a stretch when they kick or they punch or something like that. But nonetheless, I still like it. It's a really well done detail, nice design. You see how natural it makes him look when he's doing his little jump back kick? Things like that, you know, it's what I look for when I'm looking at a figure. Like, you know, how do the joints work? Will it come apart if I pose him more than, you know, one or two times? You know, this it's just well done. You're going to hear that a lot from me. He also balances well. The figure is well balanced. He's standing up with no type of support. That's just him with his leg freestanding right there on my table. I was surprised that he was able to do that because his feet aren't, you know, particularly large, because typically, you know, if a figure has big feet, then it's easier for you to balance him. But his feet are regular proportion to his body, and he can do that. And I mean, I moved around, I bumped the table, he shook a little bit, but he held his balance, and I was impressed the whole time. Like, wow, they did a good job here. So, you know, when I say engineering, they really did engineer this figure. And it's I don't know. It's just so weird how well done the figure was. I mean, I was having so much fun while posing him, just to see, like, you know, what can't he do? And he can do everything really well. Like I said before, I do wish that those hips that he has were the kind of hips that we would get on all SH Figuarts, because clearly those hips aren't going to fall apart. This figure also has a lot of the engineering that I wish that the Arkham Origins Deathstroke figure had, since they have armor in some of the same places. You can clearly tell that they sat here and they tried to figure out, how do we make this work? Because the real suit works. We got to make it work in toy form, which is one of those things that, you know, someone needs to get paid for over there at DC, you know, collectibles, or at Hasbro and various, you know, American companies. After they sculpt it, after they figure out what the articulation is gonna be, someone needs to test and figure out which articulation works best for the figure. That way you get your money's worth. Now, I'm going to show you the articulation from, you know, the original Kamen Rider Fies. You see how you can pull down the hip or the leg and extend the joint so that he could kick up higher or something like that, or squat further or whatever. You just get more range of motion when you pull the joint a little out of the crotch area. Most SH Figuarts do this, and it's commonplace, even the women. But you can push it back in to hide the joint when you have them standing up straight. And this is, like I said, this is typically how they do it. But Zero's a little different. And for whatever reason, you don't need to do that with him. He just poses properly. You can't pull it down further. You don't need to. The joint is hidden in there. It's a ball socket joint, and it works. So, all in all, man, this is one of those win-win figures. $40, shipped to you from Japan. Well-detailed figure. Beautiful paint scheme. I love the colors. They're vibrant where they need to be, and they're dark and crisp where they need to be. And accessory count is nice. He can hold his weapons with no problems. The cards are nice. I mean, there's no issues to report at all. So, you know, do yourself a favor. If you like tokusatsu, if you like Kamen Riders, pick this dude up. I think you'll enjoy him. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, peace outside, people.